Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gaurnitai Jaya Gaurnitai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Satasri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Laridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Radha Yudhari Bhagwan Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maiya Ki Jai Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gaurango. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Advaitacharya's appearance day ki jai. So Hare Krishna and welcome today to our session this morning. I'll be leading from Prabhupada Lilamrita. I'll just share screen. Shri Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. On Janmashtami day, August 28th, Srila Prabhupada awarded the order of sannyas to Kirtanananda in a ceremony in the Radha Damodar temple. Kirtanananda thus became Srila Prabhupada's first disciple to become a sannyasi, Kirtanananda Swami. During the initiation, hundreds of visitors were present observing the birthday of Lord Krishna, and many of them came by to congratulate the young sannyasi. Someone said he looked like Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada wrote, "He will be going back to the States very soon to begin preaching work with greater vigor and success. In the meantime, I shall try to utilize this white sannyasi for recruiting some members in India." Early in September, Achyutananda arrived in Delhi. A Hindu lady gave him 5 rupees and took the train to Mathura, where he got directions to the Keshavji Gaudiya Math. Narayan Maharaj, a friend of Prabhupada's, took Achyutananda under his care, and after showing him the hall where Prabhupada had taken sannyas in 1959, put him on a bus to Vrindavan with an old gentleman for an escort. Accompanied by this escort, Achyutananda arrived by rickshaw before the Radha Damodar temple. Achyutananda walked into Prabhupada's room and fell prostrate at his feet. Oh, Prabhupada said, Prabhupada said, you are here. When Achyutananda looked up, he saw that Swamiji had a 5-day beard and was wearing only one piece of cloth, wrapped around his waist from behind, crossed over his chest and tied behind his back. Prabhupada smiled, apparently in good health. Kirtanananda Swami also greeted Achyutananda and showed him his new danda. For Achyutananda, the most wonderful thing about Swamiji in Vrindavan was the simplicity of his life. Although in New York, Swamiji had worn simple robes, he had always been regal, a guru. But here he lived very simply and humbly. Once when he sat down on the veranda outside his room to wash his hands, his body instantly became covered with flies. Kirtanananda and Achyutananda were always being bothered by the flies. This was the rainy season. But Prabhupada scarcely noticed them and sat quietly washing his hands. Kirtanananda and Achyutananda agreed that Swamiji wasn't just another Vrindavan Babaji. There was no one else like him. Certainly, Gaurachanda Goswami, proprietor of the Radha Damodar temple, wasn't like Swamiji. He wore thick glasses and could barely see. And when Kirtanananda and Achyutananda went before the deities in the temple, Gaurachand Goswami asked them loudly, so, how do you like him? Which one do you like the best? I like them all, said Achyutananda. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyamavishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Parho Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So Hare Krishna. Before we start Bhagavatam, I thought we will just look at some of the qualities and characteristics of the appearance day of Advaita Acharya today. It is the first of the appearance day of the Panchatattvas as we move along. So next we have in line Nityananda's appearance day, and then of course our Gaur Purnima. So Advaita Acharya's appearance day ki jai. So as we are all aware, Advaita Acharya is in age wise, this the senior most of the Panchatattva. The Panchatattva mantra that we chant, we take his name along with the other associates every day before we commence our chanting. So we'll hear a little bit about Advaita Acharya. Most of you are familiar anyway. You know most of the pastimes, but it's just good to listen to them again, especially on their appearance day, and absorb ourselves in their activities and pastimes. So Advaita Acharya, as we know, was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, who was also the spiritual master of Ishwar Puri, who was the spiritual master in turn of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he appeared in 1434 in Navagram, in Bengal. And later on, he moved to Shantipur. So now, even now, when we go to Mayapur, there is a special darshan site at Shantipur, which is a bit distant from the main Chandrodaya Mandir. His parents were Kuber Pandit and Nabha Devi, and he conducted his earthly pastimes till about 125 years old. So after that, he left the planet. And the place of significance in terms of Advaita Acharya is the place where he petitioned the Lord to appear. And that place is known as Babla. It is still there, where people go for pilgrimage and take darshan. And that is where he worshipped his Shaligram Shila and offered the tulsi leaves and loudly, in fact, the verse is Hunkar. It says in Adi Leela that Jahar tulsi jole jahar hunkare shogan shohite chaitanyar avatar. Means Jahar tulsi jole. As a result of offering tulsi and as a result of loudly roaring, Advaita Acharya roared and requested Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to appear. So Shogun Shohite, as a result of that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with all his associates, appeared in this world in Mayapur Dham. So that was one of his major contributions for humanity at large, to deliver them from this nuisance. And of course, what did he do? We all know what did he do, but essentially there's a nice verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that talks about specifically how his contribution is so important, especially in the path of bhakti. And it is said, Jeev nistarilo Krishna bhakti koridan, Gita Bhagavate koilo bhaktiro vyakhyan. What does it mean? That Jeev nistarilo, he delivered all the jivas, all the living entities. How? Bhakti koridan, by giving them the process of devotional service, of bhakti. And Gita Bhagavate koilo bhaktir vyakhyan. And he explained this philosophy of Krishna consciousness, of bhakti, through the pages of the essential Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptures of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. He explained them in the light of devotional service. So this is the most important contribution of Advaita Acharya. In fact, till Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, he was considered the leader amongst the Vaishnavas at that point of time who were present in Mayapur. And of course, we know that he's in the eternal plane. He's an incarnation. He's a combination of Mahavishnu and Sadashiva also. Another interesting point, which some of you may know, some may not, is Advaita Acharya was also known by other names. Anybody can guess what other names he was known by?
Neda?
It's Mangala, it is said. Maybe that might be there, but it is said Mangala, and there are two other names. One is he was known as Kamalaksh, lotus-eyed. And another name I just read, I didn't know this before. He is also referred to as Gaur Ana Thakur. Means he is a Thakur who brought Gaur to this material world. So Gaur ke Ana Thakur, Gaur Ana Thakur. And there's another nice verse in the same chapter that talks about why he's called Advaita and why he's called Acharya, the definition of his name. So very nice. So it is said, Advaitam Harina Dvaitad Acharyam Bhakti Samsanat Bhaktavataram Isham Tam Advaitacharyam Ashraye. So it is said that Advaitam Harina Advaitad. Yani, he is not different from Hari. मतलब Hari से अलग नहीं है. Advaitam Hari Advaitad. He is not different from Hari. So he is called Advait. and Acharyam Bhakti Samsanat. So he basically gave or propagated the cult of Bhakti. Bhakti ka ज्ञान या ध्यान उन्होंने दिया. So he is the person who's teaching by his own behavior, by his own practice. So he is referred to as, or is known as Acharya. And to this Advaita Acharya, I take shelter. Ashray, Advaita Acharya Ashray. So let us take shelter of Advaita Acharya, his lotus feet, and pray to him that we get the impetus, inspiration, and constant motivation to follow the instructions of our spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, and please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in our journey of Krishna consciousness. Advaita Acharya's appearance day ki jai. Thank you very much. So we move on to Bhagavatam now. Share screen. Okay. So this verse is 5:1:39. Also, just to mention that so far the verses were in prose form, so it was difficult to sing along or recite them. But this one is back to the recitation form, so we will recite them today. Srimad Bhagavatam 5:1:39. Chapter title: The Advaitis of Maharaj Priyavrat. Tasya havaete shlokaha Priyavrata kritam karma Konu kuryad vineshwaram Yonemi nimnairakarot Chayam gnan saptavaridhi. Tasya havaete shlokaha Priyavrata kritam karma Konu kuryad vineshwaram Yonemi nimnairakarot Chayam gnan saptavaridhi. Tasya havaete shlokaha Priyavrata kritam karma Konu kuryad vineshwaram Yonemi nimnairakarot Chayam gnan saptavaridhi. Okay, devotees would like to try.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandot Pranam. Tasya ite sloka Priya Vrata Kritam Karma Kono Kuriyad Visheshwaram Yonemi Nimnoid Akaroch Chayam Ganan Shapta Varidhim.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I am also trying. Tasya bhaete sloka priya brata kritam karma konu kurjat dinesharam jo nemi nimne akurat chayam ghana shapta bharidhin. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam. I am also trying. Tasya hova ete shloka Priya brata kritam karma Kaunu kuryat vineshwaram Yo nemi nimno yakarot Chayam gnan sapta varidhin. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So look for word to word.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Right, sure.
Tasya havaete shloka priya vrata kritam karma konu kuryat niveshwaram yonemi nimane akaroch chayam ghanan sapta Varidhim. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So tasya, his, hava, certainly, ete, all these, shlokaha, verses, Priyavrata, by King Priyavrata, kritam, done, karma, activities, kaha, who, nu, then, kuryat, can execute, vina, without, Ishwaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yaha, one who, nemi, of the rim of the wheels of his chariot, nimnahi, by the depressions, akarot, made, chayam, darkness, gnan, dissipating, sapta, seven, varidhin, oceans. Translation. Actually, the first two lines of the purport is part of the translation only. There are many famous verses regarding Maharaj Priyavrata's activities. No one but the Supreme Personality of Godhead could do what Maharaj Priyavrata has done. Maharaj Priyavrata dissipated the darkness of night, and with the rims of his great chariot, he excavated the seven oceans. Small purport. Anybody would like to read?
Hare Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are many excellent verses famous all over the world concerning the activities of Maharaja Priyavrata. He is so celebrated that his activities are compared to those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes a sincere servant and devotee of the Lord is also called Bhagavan. Sri Narad is also called Bhagavan, and Lord Shiva and Vyasdev are also sometimes called Bhagavan. This designation Bhagavan is sometimes conferred upon a pure devotee by the grace of the Lord, so that he will be very highly esteemed. Maharaja Priyavrata was such a devotee. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So just set the context. Obviously, we're in Canto 5, and just thought I'll just do a bit of an overview so we know where we are going and why Maharaj Priyavrata suddenly comes in after we finished Canto 4, and what do we expect ahead. Just good to have a bit of a clear overview picture. So Canto 5 is consisting on 26 chapters total. And this 26 chapters is split into two sections. So first section is where we are from chapters 1 to 15 are the activities of Priyavrata and the activities of his descendants, the descendants of Maharaj Priyavrata, which includes next chapter will be Agnidra. Then we've got a big section on Rishabdev, including Rishabdev's instructions to his sons. The famous verse that we all know is no one should become a guru father unless one can deliver their dependents. That verse will be there. And then, of course, we've got another big section on Maharaj Bharat, who also becomes later on Jad Bharat, and then gives wonderful instructions to King Rahuguna. And that is the later part of the first section till chapter 15. And then from chapter 16 to 26 is the description of the different planetary systems, like Jambudeep and all the other upper and lower planetary systems are being discussed in this canto. So just to give us a bit of an overview. So Canto 4 we saw was talking about King, Manu's sons, King Uttanapad and his descendants, where we looked at Dhruva Maharaj in detail and then went on to other pastimes in that lineage. Now this canto opens up with the next son, which is Priyavrat and Priyavrat's descendants. So that gives us an idea of how one canto is connected to the other canto. That way we can remember nicely. So here in this particular chapter, it starts off with a nice question of Parikshit Maharaj asking, how come somebody who was as elevated as Priyavrat Maharaj, being given instructions by Narad Muni, a disciple of Narad Muni, how come he became attached to the material world and took on material duties? How is it possible? And then later on, how did he become detached after all of that, gave up everything and engaged in devotional service? Now, this activity itself of completely being Krishna conscious and then taking on material duties and again becoming fully dedicating oneself to bhakti is a very rare sight. We don't see that happening. If somebody is very Krishna conscious from birth or from before, he remains a brahmachari, eventually maybe becomes a sannyasi or just remains like that, or Babaji, whatever. And somebody who is materially inclined, he has material inclinations, he may engage in bhakti, but he's not fully immersed in that. There's a bit of a mixed bhakti, like most of the householders do. So a person who goes through these phases is very difficult to find. So it was a very interesting question, or very interesting to understand. So he asked this question. But before we go there, we have to understand a few contexts in Priyavrat Maharaj's situation. So he was obviously instructed by Narad Muni, and he did not want to take on material duties. If you have followed the previous verses, he didn't take on, but he was instructed to do that, isn't it? So one thing is being attracted to material glitter and sense gratification and wanting to engage. That's one part, one thing. The other thing is being told by higher authority that no, you should take on material responsibilities for a higher purpose. So is there a difference between the two or no? Of course, there's a big difference. So from that perspective, if we see the scheme of events, we may find that Maharaj Priyavrat was attached to family life or material life. But the question is, was he really attached? What do you reckon? Was he really attached to material life? From the descriptions that we hear from Shukadev Goswami, was he attached?
No.
He was not attached. He was doing family things. He got married. He had so many sons. He was ruling the planet. And when you rule, you need to do so many good things and not so many good things. You become completely attached. You have to put all your energies in that. And you may not have time to engage in devotional service as much as you want. So you become attached. Or so people perceive. But Mataji said, no, he was not attached. Any other comments? Or any other aspect of you feeling that he was attached, or was he not attached?
Well, he was not attached. I mean, he was doing the things very sincerely, but he was not at all attached.
Yes.
We have similar examples elsewhere also, like in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Raghunath Das Goswami, when he went back to the advice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did the domestic work so nicely that his father and parents were very happy. But he reminded Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. He remained detached, although externally he was very much attached, apparently to other people. So that is the same in the case of Priyavrata Maharaj as well.
Or Srila Prabhupada as well.
Yes, absolutely. So this has to be very clearly understood. Sometimes if we don't have a real overview of these things, people may get a bit swayed or deviated from this correct understanding. So Priyavrat Maharaj was never attached to material world. He was always completely dedicated to the instructions of Guru and higher authority. So following the instructions of higher authority is following the instructions of Krishna, because Krishna is instructing us through these higher authorities. So first it was Narad Muni, then it was Brahma who told him to take this up. In fact, when Brahma told him, if you recollect, he was a bit hesitant. He was not willing to. So Brahma had to preach to him. His own grandson Brahma had to preach and to tell him that, Are Baba, you will not get attached. It is a very important responsibility. You should take it up. It is required. Because he knew he's very qualified to do this job. So when we are given any service, whether it is directly connected to the temple or whether it is the service we need to do to perform our varnashram duties, it may appear as a material duty, but actually it is not, as long as our mind and senses are not attached to it. So we do it as a matter of doing service. So anything that is not, we are not attached to, anything that we do as a matter of service, according to the instruction of higher authority, that is important. It's not that I want to do service because I like it, then we are attached. But if I want to do service because I'm told by my higher authority, then that is detached way. It could be any activity, doesn't matter. So this is how Maharaj Priyavrat is instructing us. Being in this material world, being in the complete midst of all these illusory attachments, all these gratifications that we around us, we have to still keep our mind and senses absolutely focused on where it should be. And externally, we have to just do these things as a matter of doing duty. We have to do it diligently, sincerely, lovingly, but we should not be attached to it. Now, they may sound apparently contradictory, that if I love something, obviously I get attached. But here the skill is to learn to do it lovingly, but still not be attached. And Prabhupada gives a very wonderful example of a cashier in the bank. That the cashier in the bank has to very diligently, very alertfully and lovingly count all the notes when he's collecting money or when he's giving money. But not a single rupee or a dollar is his. So he can't get attached to that money, although he has to do his job diligently. And the same thing is with us in this material world. So Priyavrat Maharaj is actually showing us. So he did not get attached. It appears as if he's got attached, but actually he wasn't. So because he was not attached, after he finished doing his duties, his sons grew up, they became matured enough to take over from him. He could easily hand over, empower them, and exit. And that is another very important characteristic for all of us to learn, is we may be doing many material duties, we may be performing many responsible activities, whether at work, whether at home, whether in the temple. We have to constantly do our job diligently, and after a certain point, we have to empower somebody, train somebody else to take over from us. Otherwise, we'll get attached to that job, that service. So we have to train to take over. And we have to then devote more time to where it is required in the service of the Lord, in devotional service in some form or the other, as instructed by our guru or authority at that point. So these 2 points are very important. How, while doing the duty, what should be our consciousness? And after we have finished doing our duty, what we should be doing and in what consciousness. These 2 aspects are very, very important. Now, coming back to the purport, Prabhupada writes here that there are many excellent verses famous all over the world concerning the activities of Maharaj Priyavrat. Meaning that not just what is given in Bhagavatam, in other scriptures also, there seems to be a lot of descriptions about Priyavrat, that he was such an important personality and somebody whose activities are worth mentioning and glorifying. So that is one part. Then Prabhupada says that he is so celebrated that his activities are compared. In fact, the verse here says that no one but the Supreme Lord could do what Priyavrat has done. It was not an ordinary activity. Only the Supreme Lord could do what he had done. Nobody else can do. So it's great. He's a great personality. May not be that popular, but he is a great personality. And because he's a great personality, sometimes a sincere servant and devotee of the Lord is also called Bhagavan. And that creates a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding. Prabhupada writes here that Lord Shiva is sometimes called Bhagavan, Vyasadeva is called Bhagavan, Brahma may be called Bhagavan. So many, Narad Muni is called Bhagavan. So sometimes people who do not have a complete understanding, they may hear somebody say, oh, Shivji is Bhagavan. So they start thinking that he's God and the rest are not. Or when Vyasadeva is referred to as Bhagavan, they get confused that, well, if Shiva is Bhagavan or Krishna is Bhagavan, then how come Vyasa can also be Bhagavan? That means there must be a lot of Bhagavans, lot of gods. That's why there are so many gods. And people they start concocting different ideas. So this is very important to understand. Prabhupada clearly mentions that a sincere servant and devotee of the Lord is also called Bhagavan. So they are called Bhagavan, but it's not that they are Bhagavan. They are a representative of Bhagavan. So that's why they are referred to as Bhagavan. So what does Bhagavan mean actually? What does that word mean? Is it God? Is it demigod? Is it supreme? Is it what? So it's a very simple definition given in Vishnu Puran, and many of you would know that. Aishwaryasya samagrasya, Viryasya yashasah shriyah, Jnana vairagyauschaiva, Shannam bhaga itingana. That a personality who has got these 6 opulences in full, 100%, that personality is called Bhagavan. And that word Bhagavan has got 2 parts to it. Bhaga means opulence, and Van means the possessor of that opulence. So one who possesses all the 6 opulences in full, he is Bhagavan. And such a person, as we know, can only be one person, the source of all things, who is Bhagavan. Only he can have all opulences in full. And all the other created beings or living entities have got maybe some of those qualities in some percentage. And based on the natural inclination of these qualities, the person or the guru decides what varna will be good for that particular living entity. So when the child goes to school and goes in Gurukul or is under the observance of a proper, well-qualified, bona fide teacher, the teacher looks at his natural propensities and sees how much of those 6 opulences he has got, in what variation or in what quantities. And based on that, they're advised that this varna is good for you, whether you should be a Brahman, whether you should be a Vaishya, or you should be a Kshatriya, you should be a Shudra. That used to be the proper Gurukul system, which we have unfortunately lost. But for those of you, since we touched upon this topic, are aware, Urmila Mataji has written a very nice book called Career Dharma. And students or people who are a bit lost in deciding what their career options should be can get a lot of insights from that book. And it is something to explore. It needs a bit of guidance, but if somebody can read that and understand where they are actually situated, then it will help them make those career decisions nicely. So these 6 opulences are in full in the Supreme Lord. And a person who is a sincere devotee of this Lord or is doing wonderful activities under the instructions of the Lord to glorify the Lord, to fulfill his mission, are also referred to as Bhagavan. Just like Lord Shiva, he does whatever he does is under the instructions of Krishna. Brahma, whatever, he's the first created being, everything he does is completely under Krishna's direction. Vyasa Bhagavan, literally incarnation of Krishna. So they are all referred to as Bhagavan. But that doesn't mean, tomorrow we start referring each other as Bhagavan, that you are part and parcel of Krishna, so you're Bhagavan. So you should be very cautious. They are only referred to certain personalities who completely dedicated themselves to the instructions of the Lord and are referred to as bona fide representatives of the Lord. So they are also called Bhagavan. Yeah. And Prabhupada writes at the end that this designation Bhagavan is sometimes conferred upon a pure devotee by the grace of the Lord, so that he will be highly esteemed. So to increase the glories of that particular devotee, the Lord likes, or the Lord by his grace, he confers that, okay, he can also be referred to as Bhagavan. And Prabhupada concludes by saying, Maharaj Priyavrat was such a devotee. Yeah. So in this particular verse, there are two very important points, and the third is more of a deduction from those 2 points. So what is it in this verse that Shukdev Goswami is mentioning? That what Priyavrat Maharaj had done, nobody else could do, barring the Supreme Lord. So what did he do? He did 2 things. First, he dissipated the darkness of night. That is one. Second is, with the rims of his great chariot, he excavated 7 oceans. Now, if you look at these 2 activities, how many people can even claim or think of dissipating the darkness of the night? Unless you are an incarnation of the sun. Even if you are able to do that. Second is, with the rims of his great chariot, he excavated 7 oceans. Now, forget telling others. Even if we read this, it is very difficult to tell our own mind that how come with the rims of a great chariot, you can excavate 7 oceans. I mean, ocean is not like a well, like a bore well or a small well that, okay, you do a machine, dig down and suddenly you've got water. It's an ocean. So with the rims of a chariot, how big the chariot might be, and with the rim of the chariot, with excavating so much, how can you create an ocean? So these are absolutely inconceivable. We cannot think, or we cannot even understand with our own logic, because it is beyond logic. We'll never be able to understand, and we'll never be able to convince our mind. Forget convincing others. We don't even convince our own selves. So these activities are being told to us to impress upon us that these are inconceivable. These are absolutely, superhuman activities. Just like in the newspaper, sometimes, when we hear about something out of the box, like just some random example, normally somebody has, 1 pizza, 2 pizza. I think somebody was asking in one of the programs, how many pizzas? Maharaj was asking. And somebody said 2 pizzas, 3 pizzas. But if the newspaper reports that this person had 15 big sized pizzas, and then after eating, he had some issues, and then something happened to him, that becomes big news. Why? Because that's out of the ordinary. How can you even think of having 15 pizzas? So people read such things. If somebody says, oh, he had 2 pizzas and he went home, nobody's going to read that news. But if he has 15 pizzas and then something happened to him, people will read that news. Trending, is it not? Why? Because we're attracted to something out of the ordinary. So Maharaj Priyavrat had to do something outside of the ordinary, completely out of the ordinary. Why? To attract our attention. Oh, he excavated 7 oceans. Wow. Dissipated the darkness of the night. Wow. Okay. Then we remember. We may not fully be convinced straight away, but we remember at least. And when we understand how inconceivable the Lord is, then we can also understand that if the Lord's activities are inconceivable, even the devotees' activities can be inconceivable. And we see not far off what Prabhupada had done also is inconceivable, right? From a materialistic perspective also, what Prabhupada had done, both in increasing his 40 rupees investment into billions of dollars, from nothing to create 108 temples, and to write volumes and volumes of books. Even if somebody was to stay awake day and night all his life, he would still not be able to produce, even dictate the content of so many books. That is how inconceivable the activities of Prabhupada are. So if Prabhupada can do, then why not Priyavrat? If the Supreme Lord can do, then why not Maharaj Priyavrat if he's empowered? So this is how we have to understand these things. We may not logically understand, but with these analogies we have to understand. So here we can also see that he dissipated the darkness of the night. And another way of understanding is he dissipated the darkness. How does one dissipate the darkness? Om Ajnana Timirandhasya. How? Jnananjana Shalakaya, by the torchlight of knowledge. So by situating oneself in transcendental knowledge, one can conquer the fear of ignorance, the fear of the night. So this is one important aspect, is to constantly be attached to transcendental knowledge. And it is not just hearing, it is not just understanding, it is constantly contemplating on transcendental knowledge and always looking for opportunities to apply at the earliest opportunity. So understand, contemplate, and apply ASAP. This is what is the process. So dissipating the darkness means being attached to the process of devotional service by having complete attachment to transcendental knowledge. So that is the first part. Second is, Priyavrat had done something extraordinary. And this extraordinary activity was not because he wanted to prove something to the world. Like in the material world around us, we see when somebody is interested in doing something out of the ordinary. Why? Why does he do something extraordinary? What do you think? Even if somebody has a desire, not like Priyavrat, but I'm just saying generally, like lifting 200 kilos. Average person may lift 100 kilos, but this person wants to lift 200 kilos. Why? Because he wants to prove to the world, he wants to show others that he's the most powerful person on earth, and his name should be there in the Guinness Book of Records. Right? That's the ultimate goal. And then once that is done, nobody even knows, nobody even remembers such a person. It's such a temporary, fleeting thing. But here, Maharaj Priyavrat did not create these 7 oceans so that his name can be there in Guinness Records. Do you find his name in Guinness Records? No. Do you find him in Limca Records in India? No. But he did that. Why? Because that was part of his responsibilities. That was part of his duties as a king. He barely performed his duty, but as a process, in the method of, or in the process of performing his duty, the activities he did were classified as superhuman activities. So one important lesson from here is, whatever duties or responsibilities are given to us, entrusted to us, we must perform to the best of our ability. Put all sincerity there. And when we put all our sincerity and put all our effort in that, we are empowered to do something out of the ordinary. Devotees have got the same time as other people. Everybody's got 24 hours. But we see that other people who are not in devotional service, they also don't have time. And devotees who are practicing, they also don't have time. Nobody, do you know of anybody who says, oh, I've got a lot of time? Even if somebody is a person sitting at home, not working, if you call them and speak to them and say, oh, what are you doing? You must have a lot of time. They say, no. I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. Is that not? So nobody has time. But somehow or the other, because the person who has taken up this process of bhakti under the instructions of his guru or higher authority, he's doing his worldly things, he's doing his work, he's taking care of his family. He's also now, before he didn't have time, and he was busy only with his work and his family. Now, after being connected to Krishna, he is continuing to do work for his family and his work. But now, he didn't have extra time before. But now, he has got time to perform sadhana. Then he gets more time to do service in the temple. Then he gets more time to do Namad or Bhakti Vriksha programs or outreach programs or look at opportunities to glorify the Lord. How does time come to him? Does a devotee make time? Like when he gets initiated, does the Guru say, Beta, from today, you will get 26 hours so that you can do 2 hours of chanting? Guru bolta hai aisa? Does he say? No. But somehow or the other, the devotee finds time. So it doesn't mean because he's spending 2 hours chanting that he has to reduce something that he was not doing or leave that thing. No. Maybe reduce, yes, but not leave it completely. He knows where to prioritize, what to balance, how to do things so that everything has got its place in life. What is important has to be given more time. What is not so important but has to be done has to be given minimal time. It's a very fine balance. So if you think about it, just coming to the path of bhakti and practicing Krishna consciousness in the material world, in the society or environment we are in today is extraordinary. Sometimes we take it for granted. Theek hai na, chanting, theek hai. But actually it's extraordinary. It is not ordinary. And amongst people who have taken to Krishna consciousness, those who have pursued it, those who have taken up more responsibilities within bhakti, they are even more extraordinary. And the more responsibilities they take on, Krishna empowers them even more. And that's why our Srila Prabhupada could do so much, more than perhaps some of his god brothers at that point of time. Why? Because he was completely dedicated. He was taking on more responsibilities. Right? He didn't have to go and he could have just gone to New York, established a center and come back to Vrindavan and Radha Damodar temple and done his bhajan. Yes or no? That would have still been following the instructions of his guru, said, go to the Western world and preach. So he went there, preached, made a center, came back. No. He was not interested in just doing one. From there, he went to San Francisco. And from there, he went to London and the whole world. And then he came back to India. And in Prabhupada Lilamrita, we are now reading that of when he came back to India. By the time he came back to India, he conquered almost the whole globe. Why? Take on more responsibilities. So the more responsibilities we take, more we perform our duty, more than what we are expected to do, more we are empowered. And the more we are empowered, it's not that the person who's empowered wants to do extraordinary things. He is just doing his duty. He is just following the instructions of his guru. But people around, they are seeing that activity as extraordinary. And that is the gist of Priyavrat Maharaja's activities. And that's why this is the first chapter in Canto 5. That just by doing one's duty under the instructions of the spiritual master and taking on responsibilities in a very sincere way is extraordinary. So extraordinary that only the Supreme Lord can do what Maharaj Priyavrat has done. Maharaj Priyavrat ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. So just to conclude, I just want to say, so first is, we should always be situated in transcendental knowledge, dissipate the darkness of ignorance that constantly surrounds us. Second is, constantly endeavor to engage in devotional service, to apply what we have learned in transcendental knowledge in our lives and spread that message to others. And that is what will make our small efforts in the eyes of the Lord extraordinary and win the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, leave it open for comments or any questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Beautiful class in the summer morning. Yeah, explaining sorry, the activities of Priyabrata Maharaj. That's very 3 points, which is how he dissipated the darkness and how he became a great devotee of the Lord. And understanding those points in the right consciousness, you have beautifully explained that. Understanding the knowledge given through the scriptures, contemplating on them, and then applying our life for the benefit of all others is the prime duty of a devotee. And we can see from Priyabrata's activities, this is what he did. And in that way, he became great by the mercy of the Lord. And we see that he's being called as good as Bhagavan. So this entitlement is only possible when we go out of the box, as Srila Prabhupada did, became so famous because of his extraordinary activities. That is only by the grace of the Lord. So these are the lessons for all of us, and your explanation on that. It's very wonderful. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful summaries. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much for the very nice class, as usual, in the morning. And one thing that came to my mind is when we have extreme eagerness to serve the words of the Lord empowers us to do such activities, as you have told rightly for Srila Prabhupada at his age, and even was attacked, he has a heart attack 3 times. And in spite of that, he was able to do because he has extreme eagerness to carry out the order of his spiritual master, and not like in a just like the ordinary office work. I've been given this much, I will do this. Not like that. He wanted to fulfill the mission of his spiritual master, and that's why, as Prabhupada has also acknowledged in various places, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to do that. And that happens when we show our extreme eagerness. The Lord gives us the energy. And for that, if we think that we are doing it, then it is a mistake, because the material people always think like that. By my effort, I have done it. But when we do sincerely and think that the Lord will get it done through me, then only it happens. Otherwise, as you have told, the difference between materialistic and person. Materialist person tries to show he is important, but Lord makes him important, his devotee important, and that happens automatically for a devotee who is sincere in his service, and particularly who carries out the instruction of his spiritual master. And it is the life and soul of the spiritual master, life and soul of a devotee, when he carries out the instruction of his spiritual master. When he has that happens automatically. Hare Krishna. I think that's all what I have to say.
Thank you for adding that, Prabhu. Absolutely right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for very nice exposition of this verse. Also, it's very short purport, but you really unpacked it so nicely. In the beginning of this chapter, we see that Priyavrata Maharaj, at that time was Prince Priyavrata, he didn't want to take up the responsibility of Grihastha life. And actually, Narad's his spiritual master Narji was instructing him to do that. But then Brahmaji had to come and overrule all this, and he has to take up his responsibility. So we see a bit of conflict between like Narad and Brahmaji. But then when the decision was made, Naraji was also satisfied with the explanation. So how should we look at this scenario? I mean, sometimes there's between conflict between different aspects of spiritual life, maybe high authority and a spiritual master or some different views. How should we look at this? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Prabhu. That's very, very nice point. So if we look at it purely from a material and a spiritual perspective, or from that angle, then it appears as if it is contradictory. Narad Muni saying, you just leave everything, focus on devotional service, don't get entangled, which he's right in saying, is one thing. And then, Brahma is superior of Narad Muni. So technically speaking, if we see what is coming from Brahma is superseding what Narad has said. And it appears as if Brahma is telling him, okay, now you get married, get involved, produce children, and be entangled in family life. And, shouldn't use the word, but stay here. It appears like that. And then, of course, but if you look at it from an absolute or a spiritual perspective, overall perspective, Brahma also, he is not a person who is attached. So if he himself is not attached, how can he give others instructions to become attached? Cannot be. So Brahma's instructions may appear as if he's telling him to be attached, or he's selling something which is contradictory to what Narad Muni is saying. But actually it's not. Narad Muni gave him certain activities to do, certain duties to perform as a devotee. And Brahma gave him another set of duties to do, which was over and above what Narad Muni gave him. It was not contradictory, but it was over and above. So as we progress, just like a child in school is learning ABCD. Now, if the teacher in higher standards tells him that, okay, you've learned ABCD, you learn, now you should write an essay or a composition. Is that contradictory? No. It is just that the teacher understands you already know this. Now I should give you some responsibility or take on some more so that you learn more and you can become a better person, better skills. So it is not a contradictory, it is adding more. And it doesn't mean that what the KG teacher taught, ABCD, is not relevant anymore. Of course, on that basis, he could write a composition. So similarly, the foundational knowledge that Narad gave him made Priyavrat have a very solid foundation, so that when Brahmaji told him to take on these responsibilities and duties, he was the most qualified person, most skilled person to perform those duties in the best possible way. And Brahma knew that he's already been trained by Narad. So after he finishes his duty, he will not get entangled. And he, in fact, told him that also. And eventually he will achieve the destination that Narad Muni wanted him to achieve. So the vision of Narad and the vision of Brahma are not different. It is just that Brahma gave him more responsibilities to take on, knowing his capacity, and eventually both had the same vision that he should remain a pure devotee and fulfill his duties of life. So it appears contradictory, but actually it is the vision of both are the same. Hopefully that answers, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. I mean, Brahmaji had a very broad vision, I mean, for higher purpose. And Narad Muni here also same thing, but eventually both their instruction were achieved by Priyavrata Maharaj, because eventually Priyavrata Maharaj retired and took up full devotional service.
Correct.
So it's like you mentioned, yeah, interim, there was some purpose to be done. Brahmaji gave this instruction. And the amazing thing is that Naradji also sort of accepted this, and without any ill feeling. I mean, this is such a nice thing to know. I mean, somebody Well, so a lot of things to learn. Sometimes our point of view might not be taken, and we might feel, oh, this disorganized. But here we can see it in a high authority. They accept it in a very good mood. So many things to learn. Thank you for explaining this point, Prabhu. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat Pranam.
Krishna Mataji.
Just regarding this point, how Srila Prabhupada made the Gurukul. We used to tell, the Gurukul student will be coming and lead to the country, will be the best. Same way, Prabhupada went to that, the meditation and take the instruction from Narada. Then Brahma came to ask for the Grihastha life. Rule the kingdom. Same way, that have to go to the, take the instructions from Guru. Like in the Gurukul, the how made Srila Prabhupada is the Gurukul. So that we used to tell always, they will be the most perfect leader to the country when they will come up with their education. Same way. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice class and good to know about that Advaita Acharya's so many names and that this sloka with the main 2 points. Thank you very much. And how do we apply with that? Should be situated in transcendental knowledge and to dedicate and apply in the service of the Lord. So that way we can success in our life and go back to Godhead. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Tulsi Savya Mataji, you were wanting to say something? Okay, anybody else? Okay, if
Good,
not,
it doesn't
thank
seem to
you.
be. There
Yeah,
was
we
no
conclude. It's past 8:30.
Vancha kalpatra.
Dhruvastu kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam pavonebho vaishnavebhyo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. His Grace Suhrit Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.